Hello, everyone. Welcome. Can you hear me right?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our July webinar, the Edge Origin Story. My name is Sebastian. I am Edge Operations Manager, and I want to thank you, everyone, for joining today for this experience. We're gonna get started soon. We're gonna give 1 minute more for the remaining people to join, and we're gonna start sharing so we can get started. Okay, everyone, we're gonna get started now. Once again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much also for those who are watching our live transmission on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We're gonna get started with our July webinar called The Edge Origin Story. Can you move to the next slide, please? So first of all, I want to get started introducing myself and Alia, which we are very proud to be joining the Edge team starting now and moving forward. So my name is Sebastian Pinzon. I'm from Colombia, and I will be working moving forward as its operations manager. Pretty much, I'm going to be in charge of taking C.E.D.E.S vision on Edge to the next level to make it the initiative grow and to take it where we want to take it, which is bringing all these ideas and opportunities in a bigger scale. Olive, if you can take your word, so you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Sebastian. Hi, everyone. My name is Olia Elochica. So I'm the sales liaison of Urban GIS and Edge, and we are delighted that you are able to join us despite of your busy schedule. So thank you for all the support, and thank you for always making our EDGINAR a success. So let's make this the most out of our time together and enjoy our EDGINAR today. Thank you.
Thank you, Oli. So now, if we can move to the next slide, I'm going to turn over to Keith, so you can get everything started now. Keith, you have the word.
All right. Thank you, team, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. Really excited about today for a number of reasons. One, because the organization is growing. We're doing more things. And as you can see, we're adding team members. And so we're expanding. This is a vision that is turning into reality. And I'm really grateful for all of you for being a part of it. And we're just getting started. And as you will be able to see very shortly, we have a lot of things we've been able to accomplish thus far, but so much is coming ahead. So we want to quickly just go over a few things before we jump into our main program, which will be about the EDGE origin story, how I came to this place of starting this organization and got to where I am in my career, and how I have all these amazing ties with wonderful people who were in those trenches with me back in the day. And we were doing some of the same things, as you'll find out then, that now are really manifesting on another level. But first, I want to talk about just the awesome July that we've had. You know, we're at the end of the month here. I don't know about you all, but this summer is just blowing by. This year is blowing by because we're constantly busy. We're doing great things with EDGE. And I don't know how many people had a chance to check out the Esri User Conference. This is, I don't know how many times it's been for me, maybe 14 or 15 times. I've been going since the late 90s, but I've never experienced a conference like this. I think it's in part post-COVID, just people being excited to be back together. The GIS and geospatial industry is just growing. The reach of Esri and the software is growing. And I think we're very fortunate that they've been a big sponsor of EDGE. They once again gave us a booth this year. We had a great social out there. We were involved with other amazing organizations like North Star GIS. We just had so much going on. I think a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'd like to show you a video so you can see all the exciting things we had going on in San Diego this year.
I heard it's a vibe. I heard it's a vibe. Yes, yes, sir. Genius. That's thoughtful genius there. How are you? Good to see you. Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. So really, that short video, we wanted to keep it short and sweet. Can't fully do it justice. Was excited to be a speaker at the Business Leadership Forum. So thank you to the business and commercial team for that. We had some great socials. We had great SIGs and just so many different organizations, so many different people coming together with the common thread of space, location, technologies. But I think the other part this year that's really unique and special is the dedication towards diversity, equity, inclusion, and being more mindful. And our industry is becoming more diverse than ever. I've never seen so many people with so many backgrounds, people from all over the world and even within the US, different backgrounds. So this thing is growing, and that's what EDGE is all about. It's twofold. It's about bringing more diversity, equity, inclusion, awareness, and intentionality in our industry. It's also about bringing more attention to the great opportunities in this space we call geospatial and GIS. So we'll talk a little bit more at the end as to how you can get involved with EDGE. But we're all about being a network. We're not here to try to do all the work ourselves. We're here to inspire others to be a part of this movement, to do their part, to be a part of the restoration process here in the United States, to truly give disadvantaged folks and folks of color who may not know about this great technology, about these great business opportunities, as well as just individual, personal, professional opportunities, and then helping corporations to be educated and then outreach into the community to get K through 12 and all sorts of folks involved with GIS and geospatial. So with that, I really want to kind of make sure we leave a lot of time because we have an awesome core team here that's joining me. These are two individuals that you can move on to the next couple of slides. These are two individuals that I've known for a long time. So I felt this was a great time to take a moment to share a little bit about myself and then lead into how I kind of started Edge and got into this industry. And this came from a conversation I had with some senior folks at Esri and sharing. And I realized that sometimes people need to know your story and people can be inspired by your story. And then it really inspired me because I realized I've been doing some of these sort of things for a very long time. I grew up on the South Side of Chicago. My parents got divorced at the age of 6. Fortunately, my dad was always in my life, but raised in a single parent household. But I had both parents who were really intentional about driving me to be a professional. My mom, she was always big on making sure I spoke the King's English the right way. My dad, he was big on, making sure that I was polished as a professional. So these are the sort of things that I was blessed to have that advantage that I realized a lot of other kids did not have it. My dad was a renowned tennis player. He was actually in the Hall of Fame for DePaul University for tennis. I was exposed to sports like tennis and actually had some tennis athletic scholarships. I almost went to Florida A&M University, HBCU on a tennis scholarship, but I actually decided to take a full ride to the University of Illinois for civil engineering, and specifically, it was an award called the Presidential Scholar Award, which was for diverse students, particularly those they were really trying to recruit a lot of students into engineering and some of these STEM areas that were underrepresented. And that was the main reason why I chose that university. So my whole pathway changed as a result of that. And after going to the University of Illinois, I worked for a company called Patrick Engineering, and they're the ones who exposed me to GIS and geospatial very early in my career and gave me a chance to speak in front of a lot of folks as we were growing and developing that GIS group. So a lot of why I am even here is because I had parents who did some things. I was at an international studies high school, so I got exposed to, foreign cultures and diversity from that standpoint. I then went on to get a minor in international engineering at the University of Illinois, which was a new program. And so I studied abroad in Argentina. Entonces yo puedo hablar así. And for this reason, I now have staff in Colombia and travel all over Latin America and the world. And these are just not the common kind of things that happen for a kid from the South Side of Chicago. I have many cousins, many relatives who did not, end up in the same place that I did. So I'm very fortunate. So for me, Edge is all about paying that forward, helping others to have some of these, chances to see what is there. I had a cousin who was a civil engineer and went to MIT and was very inspirational for me. I had at least a few family members who were ahead of me, who showed me the path, who inspired me, who kept me honest. And so I'm looking to just do that. And so after finishing at Morgan Park High School, Chicago Public School, and getting this full academic scholarship for civil engineering at the #1 program in the world since my junior year, around that time of my sophomore, junior year, the school introduced a new staff member, and this is the first, to my knowledge, Black staff member in the civil engineering department. If we can go to the next slide. And this gentleman took me under his wing. He took many of us under his wing. And I'm going to share a little bit more about him in a second. But first, this sounds like one of those commercials. I have to take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors. We wouldn't be here without you all. And we're so grateful for all the donations that are helping us to do the work we're doing towards scholarships, towards having the sort of community outreach that we're having. So thank you to Urban GIS and all of our staff. To Esri, as I mentioned, who's been so instrumental in getting exposure for us and supporting us in so many different ways, to Larson Design Group, to North Point, who's been there from the very beginning and in the trenches and is just such a great part of Edge, to one of our new sponsors, GeoMarble, our first Platinum Plus sponsor. We thank you so much for your donation and your generosity. And we look forward to a future Edgenar featuring GeoMarble and some of the cool things they're doing with DEI, sharing some of their ideas and trying in terms of inspiring folks. We also want to thank Bolton and Mink, who has been a wonderful and a great steward as well as far as a new sponsor, and is looking to help us to get new sponsors. So there's plenty of room. I want this board to be filled with companies in our industry and even some outside of our industry, those who believe in our vision, believe in what we're trying to do, and believe that everyone should take a part in some sort of responsibility corporately, and also understand that there's a corporate benefit, right? An organizational benefit to taking DEI seriously. And so we want to acknowledge you and folks who are looking for companies to work for. These are solid companies that believe in diversity, equity, inclusion, believe in giving people who have been disadvantaged a chance to really shine in your career. So moving forward to the next slide, coming back to the EDGE backstory. So every X-Men, kind of movie, they always have the X-Men origins at some point, or Spider-Man, they have the origin. So this is kind of the origin saga. And of course, like the X-Men, you're going to have a Professor X. You're going to have somebody who was there. So this gentleman, Dr. Fred Coleman, was like my Professor X there, and for many of us. And we decided, hey, there weren't many of us civil engineering students. We banded together, Black students, Latin students, students of different backgrounds, and said, hey, let's start an organization, because a lot of the support systems that were there were geared towards other engineering fields and computer science and civil engineering. It's very tough to get through at University of Illinois, and we had very little kind of support systems. And so we decided to design and create ourselves a new organization called C.E.D.E, which stands for Civil Engineers of Diverse Ethnicity. Sounds very similar, right? And I didn't even realize that until I was having a conversation with folks at Esri. So same sort of thing, just trying to be a platform, a place where people can feel safe, a place where you can have people who like-minded and working in banded together. And so Dr. Coleman was our academic advisor, and for me personally, he was the one who helped me to get my first internship which actually turned out to be an internship in GIS and geospatial. So I would not be here without him, without his wife, Helen Coleman, and so many other people who were at the University of Illinois in the moral engineering program that helped me and others make it through. Many of us were on the brink of getting kicked out because it was so difficult, but these are people who advocated for us. These are people who pushed for us, and we're so appreciative. And now we're just trying to do our job of paying it forward. So let me introduce Dr. Fred Coleman and let him share a little bit about himself.
Thank you, Keith. It's always a pleasure to be a participant in your EDGE-NARS. And I really appreciate what EDGE is doing and what you're doing to advance diversity in the geospatial industry. It's very, very important, and I'm glad I can play a very small role in that. Let me just give you a little background about myself. I grew up in Flint, Michigan, attended high schools there. And my first exposure to engineering was in part through a neighbor who was a mechanical engineer. And then in high school, my high school counselor sent me to a weekend retreat at Oakland University in Michigan that was sponsored by Black students to get them interested in engineering, and specifically civil engineering, post the Detroit riots of 1968. And so Detroit needed to rebuild, and the young Black students there at Oakland University knew that civil engineers would need to be a part of that rebuilding process. And that's what inspired me in part to become a civil engineer. Skipping forward to my time at Michigan State University, I attended Michigan State University from 71 through 76, which may seem like a long time ago for some of you. But at that time, a new student organization had just started called Minority Students in Engineering. I quickly gravitated to that because it was a group of like-minded students similar to C.E.D.E, who wanted to support each other and did things together to help us be supportive of each other in terms of study sessions, test banks, field trips, speakers, all that kind of good stuff. And that organization evolved into the National Society of Black Engineers chapter from my exposure to the National Society of Black Engineers from a large chapter at Purdue University. So I took what I learned from visiting Purdue University and their NSBE efforts back to Michigan State University, and we moved our Minority Students Engineering group into a formal NSBE chapter. Completed my undergraduate at Michigan State, completed my master's and PhD and arrived at the University of Illinois in January 1994, being the only Black faculty member on that staff, teaching transportation engineering courses. And the C chapter had just gotten started before I arrived. But with all my experience of being the president of Minority Students in Engineering, I knew exactly what they were going through and what they were working through. And they were doing a tremendous job. And my role was really just to kind of help guide and to be there as a person who could help them understand the importance of their studies, not allow them to get discouraged, to make them aware of opportunities, and to promote and support them in any way that I possibly could. And I thoroughly enjoyed that experience, and just met wonderful, wonderful, wonderful students who I knew were going to be successful as they matriculated through the University of Illinois. Keith, back to you.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Coleman. And, I learned something every time we have these conversations. Maybe I just didn't recall. That is so awesome that you were, part of the early stages of growing NSBE, one of the first chapters. And I was just looking on LinkedIn today, and they're announcing NSBE's 50th anniversary in Atlanta, Georgia next year. Definitely plan to go to that. And I'm hoping that EDGE can have some influence there in getting more NSBE students to know about GIS and geospatial. And, 50 is that magic number right now. As we know, I'm turning 50 next month. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But just to see that you were, instrumental in so many organizations that have had, national and international reach, have touched the lives of so many engineering and computer science students. It's really amazing. I know you were very influential for us, but that's great to hear about that. Tell me a little bit more about any other areas where, being in DEI has, given you a chance to have some influence in our industry.
Sure. Let me just say that before I arrived back before I arrived back to Illinois as a faculty member, I spent 5 years in Cincinnati working with Procter & Gamble as a manufacturing manager there. And while there, I continued a lot of my, if you will, organization building to help young people become more aware of opportunities in engineering and technical fields by starting the first National Technical Association chapter in the city of Cincinnati. And we also model a program from Michigan State University to provide Saturday morning math and science enrichment classes to local students in the Cincinnati area. And very, very proud of that. And that chapter was still moving forward, over the last several years. So, in terms of DEI, my work continued as a faculty member to bring graduate students from HBCUs to the University of Illinois for summer research opportunities. Also got them involved in airport pavement research programs at the University of Illinois, and really just tried to serve as a mentor for all those students who were in C.E.D.E.S and formed very close relationships with many of those students, wrote many letters of recommendation to get them into graduate schools, and had many discussions and conversations with them, and just really tried to serve as a role model, similar to what others had been in my life when I was coming through Michigan State University. It was so important to have role models and mentors. And I wish to emphasize that that importance of having a mentor, particularly, any mentor that you have is extremely important to you. But it's also, I like to emphasize, it's very important to have mentors from within your own culture or your own background who can really speak to and understand the struggles that you as a diverse person may have. And so accept all mentors that come into your life and work with them and appreciate them. But it's also very important to have mentors who reflect you and your culture, to really, help you break down and understand the challenges that you may face and the ways in which to overcome those challenges.
I so appreciate that, and I love that you're not stopping. Right, you've had a lot of success stories, and you've done this at different levels in different decades, and here we are still working together with Edge. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the consulting work that you do towards our certification program. But I think this is a good time to talk about another success story, another protege, another person you mentored for many years, who's a colleague of mine at the University of Illinois, and like myself, came from a civil engineering background, got exposed to GIS and really ran with that and has made his career around that. And like myself, also is a CEO, just a very entrepreneurial person who's had a number of businesses. Every time I look up, he is doing something else. He's done all sorts of farming with innovation. He's a world renowned and just tremendous GIS programmer. He's done work with my company, Urban GIS, and a lot of things on his own. And he's done GIS projects all over the world. And so Kenyatta Jackson, if you want to share a little bit about your background at U of I and then what you're up to now and how this has all panned out for you.
Hey, Keith, it's great to see you, be with you again. Also, Dr. Coleman, it's been so many years that we've known each other and, done work, through the years. And so I guess I'll just start off, just tell you a bit about myself. I'm a Kenyatta Baraka Jackson, product of the South Side of Chicago public schools as well. Have a similar path as Keith. We're really peers in our group. But the two of us were definitely blessed to be able to have the family background and the structures that we have individually. And like Keith said, I mean, we have so many family and friends who didn't really have the opportunities and the role models that we did. And, that's really the reason for our success. We're not necessarily two special people out of the city. We're, one of many young people in the city of Chicago, who have hopes and dreams and bright futures. But we all don't get a chance to fulfill them in the way that we have. But it's definitely a blessing to be here. Keith and I go way back. We talk about C.E.D.E. I remember we first started C.E.D.E. It was just the two of us. I remember that we had this first engineering open house where we had our project, and it was the two of us. We built a magnetically levitated rail system train, like a little model. And so it was just, little magnets and, but it was a working model. And it was something, that we took some time and did it. And from that, we kind of build that initial core of people who, saw us at the engineering open house and, wanted to be a part. And so, one of the funny things is, that was like a little maglev train, but, we called it like the Pan-African Express because, we both had that culture and pride in ourselves and our history. And, now I'm actually in Africa doing a lot of things over there. Maybe we can talk about those later or another time. But, it's really great to come full circle with Keith. And so just to back up a bit, Dr. Coleman was a great resource and a great mentor to us and many of the students at the university, not, just the diverse students. He was there for, as an example for us all. And I remember having we had like a little intro to GIS, or we had an intro to something class, and that was the first time I actually saw GIS. And it was a whole different thing. I mean, it was a brand new technology at the time because, then we just dealt with all the physical maps and, everything was drawings and drafting drawings. And to be able to have everything digitally where you can actually go through, decipher, add, symbolization and just create maps on the fly. I just thought it was very amazing. And you know, my you know, my background is, you know, civil engineering, obviously, but you know, my father actually was a software developer, so he taught me to program at a very early age, and so I never went to school for programming, but you know, I always had that computer science background, and so the merging with the you know, with the civil engineering, you know, was just a perfect fit for GIS, and so you know, I was in school. In the master's program, and actually I was actually going for the PhD program, and you know, Dr. Coleman was one of my advisors. He was my undergrad advisor, I think Keith and I, but he was always, you know, a close advisor through my academic career. And so I decided to go to Africa, maybe 98, I forget, it was years ago. I can't even remember the dates, but basically I went to Africa to pursue my PhD research. I, you know, wanted to do some stuff over there for my research, and so I was working with. I was in Nairobi, Kenya, working with folks at the Ministry of Roads and Public Works. You know, I was basically talking to them about some of the you know, projects they had going on, and they ended up linking me with an American company who had this World Bank project over there. And you know, initially I was just talking with them, wanted to get some, you know, just information on my PhD research, but they, you know, heard my background, and then they saw my computer background, and they kind of hired me on the spot for that project. And you know, that's pretty much where my career just began. And it was basically a one of the first major GIS projects in Africa, where we computerized the whole network of Kenya. We have field teams going across the country, basically, you know, with GPS collection of all the roads. And as they collected the data, they would go and do basically surveys of the roads. So it was like a road condition survey for all the roads. And so with that data, you know, they just had all this data sitting there on a computer, you know, just in small little segments. I'm sure you guys know how it works, but this is just, you know, infinite amount of data, but they didn't really know how to get it into a map. They didn't really have anything to analyze it except for just manually. So what I did was I came in and wrote scripts, and this was back with Arc Objects. This is before, you know, the modern GIS. I think this was ArcView that we were using, that initial Arc Objects. And so basically we just wrote scripts to analyze the data and to, you know, convert the data into this raw GPS into the data that would be able to be used in the shape files, and you can you know, use maps, symbolize it and add it to maps. And so that was really my first you know, the beginning of my career, really, my first time actually utilizing some of these tools that we learned in school and tying them together on an actual project. And that was years ago. And so now, since then, I've been working, you know, as a GIS consultant throughout the world, really. Came back with Keith, was working with Keith on some projects in Chicago. That was like a great moment in time where to just, when, you know, start your career with a good friend. And, you know, we were friends even before that. I'm not sure how me and Keith met, but we were friends before we even ran into each other in class. But we had all our classes together because we were the only two back then. And to, you know, 10 years later, link up doing business in Chicago, you know, 15 years later, you know, out at Esri conferences, you know, I was doing presentations there. Keith was in the room. You know, Keith has always been there for different stages of my career. And, you know, I'm glad to be here to be a part of this EDGENAR. And, you know, hopefully we'll love to be a part of EDGE in the future and see what we can do.
Thank you so much, Kenyatta. Very inspiring, man. I was getting choked up this morning just thinking about, you know, all the good memories and good folks in our group and all the things with Dr. Coleman. I think one of the interesting common denominators is, we all got exposed to GIS very early, in the 90s. And Professor Coleman was a very innovative professor from the beginning. And so he was, as you mentioned, introducing GIS to students as an innovative way to approach things in transportation engineering. On my side as well, getting that internship with the operations and maintenance department, doing utility mapping at a very early stage and putting it into a database and combining that with the mapping portion long before I knew what GIS was. So, we were blessed to kind of get in early on with some of these things. But I think the other intersection is we've all had entrepreneurial and business kind of sides. So we're tech guys, we're engineering guys, but we're also entrepreneurs. So maybe Dr. Coleman, share a little bit more about some of your entrepreneurial endeavors and how that's been a part of your journey. And then Kenyatta, you can do the same.
Sure. Thanks, Keith. I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes I overlook that. So just a story here. So when I came back to Michigan State University to start working on my PhD, this was after I had left Procter & Gamble, came back to Michigan State University to work on my PhD. I was immediately approached by, ironically, the dean of my College of Engineering at Michigan State University. He had received a call from a state department, from the Michigan Department of Management and Budget, and they were looking for a minority consultant to help them with some transportation-related work and projects that they had. And he wanted to know if I was interested in consulting with the Michigan Department of Management and Budget. And so here I was, first year PhD student, back to work on my PhD, and what drops into my lap except a consulting opportunity. So I picked it up and ran with it. It was interesting because when I came back to do my PhD in Michigan State, I'd already taken all the graduate civil engineering classes because I'd also gotten my master's there. And so my faculty advisor had pushed me toward taking courses in the College of Business. And so for my PhD, I have numerous MBA level courses in the College of Business at Michigan State University, dealing with logistics, supply chain management, and then rounding out my PhD, it was geography and statistics, okay? And so my PhD is made up of those kinds of that kind of coursework, but going back to the consulting opportunities, they just continued to come as I worked on my PhD in Lansing, East Lansing, Michigan. And by the time I got close to graduating with my PhD, I went back and looked at my resume, and I had completed 10 projects, consulting projects, as a private consultant. And during that period of time, I had become certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise with the Michigan Department of Transportation. And so through my certification process and becoming certified and realizing what that meant as an entrepreneur and the opportunities that created for me as a disadvantaged business enterprise, I brought some of that entrepreneurial thinking and spirit with me when I came to the University of Illinois to start my first faculty position. And I knew that with the city of Chicago and the growth and development of African-American and Hispanic businesses there, that there would be tremendous opportunities for guys like Keith and guys like Kenyatta and future speakers that you're going to have here. And so I was always very optimistic and hopeful and just sharing nuggets with them about what would be available for them upon completion of their degree, the kind of career path that they needed to have in order to prepare themselves to be CEOs in the future. And so I'm very, very happy for them. I'm very, very proud of them. And it's been a very, very unique environment and setting and experiences that these young men have come through. And I'm very happy that they're where they are now. And I'm looking forward for their continued growth.
Really appreciate that, Dr. Coleman. Kenyatta, you want to share a little bit on the entrepreneurial side of things? I know you're very, you like me, man. You're not only someone who travels all over the world. You're all over with your various business endeavors. A very multifaceted individual.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I guess with the entrepreneurship, with me, it starts, I have to say, even the whole engineering, everything starts with my grandfather. My grandfather, he was like a craftsman. He used to build houses and, he had this workshop in his garage. And it's like he could just build anything. I remember just being a kid, just sitting on a little stool, watching him work like all the lathes and the band saws and just making all these things that he would, go out and sell because, he didn't really have the opportunities that, I had as far as education, getting that engineering degree and, getting those mainstream type opportunities. And so he built everything with his hands and out there and made it. And that's really where I get my whole entrepreneurial spirit from. That's where I get my whole engineering side from as well. And so, basically with me, entrepreneurial, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I remember I was a kid, like maybe 8, 9 or something. And, I started with the infamous, lemonade stand, and so I had a little lemonade stand on a block and really wasn't really working too much. But one day, I guess they were doing some construction on the building across the street. And, one of the workers came by and wanted some lemonade. And so he kind of started hired me to just supply lemonade to the whole crew. And so I closed the stand and then I was just, making lemonade for that group. And so that was fun. And that kind of started me on my journey. And so I always had little side businesses, we call them side hustles going on just to try to, make things work. And, I remember my first actual company that I started was actually in college. My undergrad, was in civil engineering, but my undergrad focus was construction management with a secondary in structural engineering. And so, once again, really coming from my grandfather, that kind of gave me that impetus and, to want to build things, to be a builder. And, I believe it was like my junior year, I wanted a co-op, they have like the different co-ops. And so what I did, I decided to co-op for myself. And so I started a company. Basically, we were doing kitchen and bathroom remodeling. I used to do decks and patios. And, I got all those skills, carpentry skills, even electrical skills. My uncle is an electrician. I did a lot of installations with him. But I basically started a company in Chicago to do mostly kitchen, bathroom remodeling and decks and patios. And so, how you have a co-op one semester, you'll be in school, the next semester you'll co-op for a company. I did an official co-op, but then I co-op for my company, during that spring into summer semester. And so that was my first actual time. That was my first of many actual incorporations that I've done. Since then, definitely got into the consulting, after the project in Nairobi, where we computerized their road network. That's really started my GIS career. And, with that on my resume, it was so many consulting opportunities in the States. And so, I always had various, plenty of options as far as work. And so, I started my own consulting company, but you know how it is, it's just pretty much you, or it was me, just as the worker. And, I know Keith started, I remember when Keith started Urban GIS years ago, it was, great where he actually had, office, had staff, and, I know he started small and he's grown so much since then. And I mean, and that's so great to see. And that's something that I never really did here in the States, because I was always just doing me. And, I was doing different projects, consulting with Keith on various things, other clients, did a lot of work. I was did a lot of stuff for the USDA Forest Service, like 10-year contract. I was a government contractor over there, through my company. And, we did things like, we were in Peru doing some things with the Amazonian rainforest to kind of help maintain the illegal transportation and cutting of trees and logging, tracking the trees through from harvest to export. Everything in between, transportation, manufacturing. I was talking to Keith earlier. I forgot I was working on this project even before that with China. That's one of my first projects when I came back to the States. I was working with as a consultant with Navtech downtown Chicago, where they had this contract with China to basically build. They wanted to build a system to get all of their GIS or their GPS data into their navigation systems, the very early navigation systems for cars and auto. But of course, they didn't want to leave, their data to leave the country. China, they weren't, trying to give us the data so we can give them the system. So we basically had to develop tools that basically did ETLs and conversions of their systems, their data into the navigation system that they needed. And so, I was the main developer on that years ago when they just started with the navigation systems. And, since then, been doing various other activities. But, like Keith kind of mentioned earlier, one of my main things now is agriculture. I've always been into agriculture. I've always had a garden, always loved the land, always loved eating, what my hands have actually produced. And so, probably about 7 years ago, I bought some land in Illinois, had a little organic farm that I was doing over there, growing basically different heirloom vegetables, the stuff you can't get in the store, the stuff that has the real nutrition and the real taste, not the big mainstream stuff that ships with not spoiling for 50 days, that has no taste. But yeah, it'll ship and it'll hold in the store, but it doesn't really do too much for you as far as health wise. And so, I had my little market garden that I was doing over there. And but I guess with the time of the pandemic, it was a transition for everyone, a lot of things going on. And, I actually finished a 10-year contract with the Forest Service. And so instead of, looking for another contract here, I decided to go to Africa and started a business in Rwanda. And so, I've been living in Rwanda, Kenya for the last few years, back and forth between, Chicago, East Africa. And, over there, I have a tech company that I'm doing there as well. I haven't really done a whole lot of GIS, but I'm actually about to start an African GIS branch for my company. But, I've been doing other smaller projects for different people. A lot of like web platforms, I'm doing some various like there's this big cybersecurity platform that I'm developing with another partner over there. And, that's on the IT side. But I also have some land there where I'm doing agriculture as well. And so in a permaculture, which is, a type of natural based agriculture. And so, basically have a permaculture research farm that I'm doing in Rwanda, where, we're basically trying to see how you can have small, medium-sized lands and make them profitable for profitable and then also productive for the local communities, and in Africa, and really could be applied across the world in a more natural way of growing things without, the pesticides and all of the, chemical fertilizers. And so, so agriculture is also, a passion. The other thing that I'm doing there is fashion. And so, I have a clothing line that I'm doing there. And I actually have, a workshop, tailors, and, a clothing store that I'm actually doing there for the local market. So we're basically doing all different types of fashions, but I want to focus on made in African blue jeans that I'm actually doing there, and I'm selling them locally for the market. But eventually I would like to bring them here and, just sell international. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing on that side. on this side, I still have my IT company. You know, I have various folks that I do consulting with, including Keith when he has things he needs some high technical help with. And but I also have my my technology side. It's not just the GIS. I know that's what I do for my is consulting, but I have various IT projects that I'm working on. One of which is I'm actually launching a e-commerce platform here. And it's, well, I guess we can talk about it. It's basically it's similar to a Shopify type platform where folks can have their own e-commerce sites, and it integrates with various print-on-demand companies and drop shipping companies, just like Shopify does. But it's basically for for Black entrepreneurs to have an opportunity to have a Black-owned platform to create websites. And I'm also integrating it with various production in Africa. So, you can actually sell items from African manufacturers that will be warehousing here in the States. And so then we just drop ship it out. And so, it's a few different things going on. I know that's not the topic of this discussion, but,
Just a few, man. I don't know. Do you sleep, bro? I thought I was bad, man, and I got a son now who's into fashion. So we're going to have to collaborate on that. But definitely leave your link on some of your different projects, things you have going on. I see you wearing some of the apparel now. I want to represent, get some of that, man. And I just love it, bro. You keep me inspired. You were DJing internationally before I was, man. So we always, we got very like-minded. And I so appreciate you were the first one who gave me that entrepreneurial kind of opportunity, because that business you had in college, I was working with you some on trying to get some project working with the university, man. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. It's so much you can't even remember, man. That always was a big.
Yeah, we were trying to renovate one of the frat houses.
Yep.
And exactly. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a long time ago, man.
Yeah, so we're still moving, man. I love that we're still working together. It's a great story. We're close to time, but I want to pass it over to Dr. Coleman. And Dr. Coleman, if you could briefly talk a little bit more about how we're working together still now, and how you're taking some of your background in DEI and then using that to hopefully help this geospatial industry.
Sure. Yeah. So Keith, you and I have been working together for about the last 2 years. And what's happened is that, I ended up working for the University of Illinois as their director of diversity for capital programs. And in that role, I helped the University of Illinois develop their policies and implement their policies with respect to utilizing diverse companies in architectural design work as well as construction work. So when I retired from the University of Illinois in 2015, I decided to incorporate my business around that particular work effort of working with agencies, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, to help them understand how to sell to clients who were looking to meet diversity goals or just have more of a diverse professional services presence. And also to work with minority and women-owned companies to help them understand how to perform their business development in that environment, how to sell to clients, how to get certified as a minority and women-owned business, and how to support them in terms of their efforts to grow their business. And so that's what I've been doing since 2015. And I've worked with a large roster of clients throughout the state of Illinois, and have helped numerous small minority and women-owned businesses go through that process from startup to becoming a stable minority-owned business, primarily focused in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. More recently, Keith and I have collaborated on the work that I have been doing in DEI to put together efforts to expand how diversity, equity, and inclusion can occur in the geospatial industry. And we've approached several clients to help them build out their diversity, equity, and inclusion and social justice initiatives. And I think our proposals are outstanding. We've put together a really excellent team, and we know that we can deliver, and we have delivered for previous clients in this space. And so I'm continuing to look forward to working with Keith and EDGE and Urban GIS to expand the potentials and opportunities for diverse businesses to have more of a presence in the geospatial industry, and to have the geospatial industry really become more aware of how important it is to have a perspective and a utilization of minority and women and diverse businesses.
I love it. I love it. So full circle. I mean, I think hopefully people can see why these things are important. And we're all here and testaments to what happens when we're intentional. So just to wrap things up, a couple upcoming things we have coming up next month. I celebrate my 50th birthday. And for me, I like to celebrate and party with a purpose. And my purpose is to give scholarships to young people, to give them exposure and opportunity in this great industry. So we're going to do a boat party, but I want to kind of be able to have a little bit more ability to control how that thing was going to go, because it was an event that we're tagging on to. So we're going to do our own thing at the beach, 63rd Street, south side of Chicago. Beautiful facility, renovated there, rooftop party there. So you could have some food, drinks, go out on the beach, jet ski, all that kind of great stuff. Tickets will be $50, and then we'll look for any other donations that you want to have. Proceeds will be going towards our scholarship program. So the Venmo there on the screen, you could scan, and you can go to our website for more information on that. Next slide. And then also we're looking for more sponsors, as I mentioned, and the sponsors are very fruitful towards us doing the scholarship program, towards us doing the community outreach and the things that we're trying to do here at EDGE. We are a 501c3, so you can get that benefit. And current sponsors, we're looking for people. Even if you don't have a company, maybe you could help recruit a company. And current sponsors, you can recruit other companies. We just want to grow this network, and we do need financial support to do that. Next slide. And then coming up, there is a opportunity through the Minnesota C.E.D.E.S organization for scholarships. That deadline is August 11th. Please check the website for more details on that, but please take advantage of that great opportunity. Stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to decide if we're going to do this in September. We might do it in October and work on some sponsors, having sponsors actually be able to present and share their stories about DEI. So we're going to stay tuned for what we're going to do in September. We are going to have a pause on our Ed&Rs in August, as I'm going to take a little break, y'all. If I could do that, celebrate my 50th here in America and also in Colombia. So I'm excited about that. On the next slide, in October, we're right back at it. We will be at the Minnesota C.E.D.E.S Consortium. I was a keynote speaker there last year. Love that group and that organization. And then we're also working with By the Hand Club for Kids to hopefully have a STEM fair here in Chicago, either in October or November. So we're looking for companies and individuals who want to be a part of that, to help the young people of the city of Chicago, especially in some disadvantaged areas, know more about GIS and geospatial. We did it a few years ago. The kids loved it. A lot of them got excited about becoming GIS professionals. So stay tuned on that end. And then just to close out, another conference, Race, Ethnicity, and Place Conference. We plan to be there in Washington, D.C. in October. Next slide. And then really just the last call to action. If you're not a part of EDGE, please become a part of EDGE. If you are a part of EDGE, recruit some other people. Here's some practical things that you can do. Next slide. You can be a part of our job board, get others to be a part of our job board. We want to have as many companies, and now we need more resumes from students. So we're looking to work with students from HBCUs from all over, and as well as professionals. So we want different levels so that companies can look for mid-level, entry level, all these things. And I should give a shout out to UNCF as a part of their Unite conference. So awesome, so amazing. So UNCF, looking forward to working more with you to get as many of the HBCUs and the Hispanic and Native students to be a part of our board, but also go to our website. If you're not a part of our network, join the network, join the LinkedIn network. Make sure that you can get the upcoming newsletters that we're going to have, and then we can talk more about specific things that you can do. But more than anything, just collaborate, share information, inspire, and find your place to do something to move the needle in DEI and awareness of GIs and geospatial. We thank you for coming. You got to be here for part 2 because there's several other CEOs, some folks who have 300 and 400 person companies who've done some more amazing work, all from this one program from University of Illinois. And we're all part of C. So I'm so proud of that. And this story has to be told. So here's our email address. Please have any questions, comments. There's my personal address. Looking forward to working with all of you all, collaborating with you all. So appreciate your time. So appreciate your support. We will catch you on the next Eginar. And if you have ideas for Eginars or want to participate in one, let us know. Here's our scan that you can scan this to join our network and to get others to do the same. Let's work together to take the geospatial industry to the edge. Catch you on the next one.